Motorcycle culture often evokes images of camaraderie, freedom, and the open road. Yet beneath that romantic ideal lies a far more menacing underbelly, where so-called brotherhood can mask violent turf wars and multi-continent criminal networks. In this deep dive exploration, we unmask three of the most dangerous motorcycle gangs in the world. This is not a glamorous portrayal of leather-clad rebels, but rather a sobering glimpse into groups that thrive on smuggling, extortion, and deadly rivalries. By the end, you may view the roar of a motorcycle in a completely different light. For decades, these gangs have evolved from ragtag bands of disenfranchised riders into global syndicates capable of funneling narcotics, weapons, and laundered cash across borders with startling efficiency. Law enforcement agencies worldwide have invested immense effort into infiltrating their ranks. Arrests and raids may disrupt operations, yet the nature of these gangs, rooted in cult-like loyalty, makes them nearly impossible to eradicate. Members see themselves as living outside societal norms, proclaiming themselves the 1% of bikers who reject any mainstream rules. Such rebellious posturing, however, is only the surface of what becomes a far-reaching criminal empire. In the chapters ahead, we focus on three such gangs: the Outlaws, the Bandidos, and the Hells Angels. Each gang began in a specific time and place, driven by unique cultural and historical factors. Yet they share important traits, such as a fiercely hierarchical structure, a willingness to engage in extreme violence, and a knack for public myth-making that obscures the extent of their wrongdoings. Their stories illuminate how motorcycle clubs shift from community hangouts to powerful syndicates, weaving a web of clandestine dealings and international alliances. We also see how their members enforce codes of silence, punishing those who dare speak out, thus ensuring that secrets remain hidden behind the veneer of tough guy mystique. While they each have distinct identities, unique patches, colours and local traditions, the underlying thread is that of an outlaw brotherhood that often embraces violence and cunning to maintain its stronghold. We begin with the Outlaws MC, a group whose name itself suggests their defiant stance toward both law enforcement and mainstream biker culture. The Outlaws Motorcycle Club traces its roots back to 1935 in McCook, Illinois. Initially, it was a loose collective of bike enthusiasts who hung around a local bar, sharing road tales and mechanical tips. Over the years, the group drifted toward a rebellious identity, adopting a black and white skull logo nicknamed Charlie. By the 1950s, the Outlaws were known for rowdy behaviour, tangling with local police over rowdy parties and public disturbances. As the club expanded its membership, it also grew bolder in challenging both rival clubs and societal norms. In the 1960s, they embraced the 1%er label. This originated from a statement by the American Motorcyclist Association, which claimed that 99% of bikers were lawful and only 1% were outlaws. The Outlaws relished that 1% status, reveling in the idea they stood outside mainstream biker culture. With this rebellious ethos, they embarked on a path that intertwined them with petty crimes at first, gradually escalating into more serious offences like gun running and drug distribution. By the 1970s, they had sprouted chapters throughout the Midwest, claiming territories in states like Ohio, Indiana and beyond. Perhaps their most defining aspect is their intense rivalry with the Hells Angels. Clashes between the Outlaws and the Hells Angels are part of biker law, widely documented in FBI case files. Some of these violent encounters have occurred in public spaces, leaving bystanders stunned. Legend has it that a simple spark, like a dispute over who could wear which patch in a certain region, could trigger a confrontation ending in bloodshed. Law enforcement agencies soon realized that each club had become so large that it operated almost like a paramilitary force, with foot soldiers, lieutenants and a chain of command to coordinate illegal activities and handle internal discipline. During the 1980s and 1990s, the Outlaws orchestrated major drug trafficking routes, channeling substances like methamphetamine, cocaine and marijuana across state lines, and sometimes even across international borders. investigations showed that they were adept at forging temporary alliances with other criminal groups if it served their business interests. Meanwhile, outlaw chapters in Europe engaged in equally ruthless pursuits, forming connections with local organized crime syndicates to expand their reach. By bridging these global networks, the outlaws solidified a presence that authorities found increasingly difficult to penetrate. One of the more notorious episodes occurred in the early 2000s when the Outlaws and the Hells Angels engaged in a series of violent altercations across multiple states. In one instance, members of the Outlaws allegedly opened fire on a Hells Angels clubhouse, provoking a retaliatory strike. The aftermath forced the FBI to launch a multi-state operation, arresting dozens of bikers from both clubs on charges ranging from attempted murder to racketeering. Court documents painted a picture of meticulously planned attacks, with club leadership allegedly approving hits on rivals. Modern times haven't lessened the Outlaws' reputation for violence. Despite numerous law enforcement sweeps that dismantle chapters, the club adapts by either re-establishing old ones or setting up new fronts in areas with weaker police presence. Security experts note that the Outlaws often appear quiet for stretches of time, only to resurface with a high-profile altercation or infiltration scheme that leaves investigators scrambling for answers. Their secrecy is bolstered by strict internal rules, where disloyalty is met with severe punishment, reinforcing an environment where secrets rarely leak out. Yet for all their infamy, the Outlaws also maintain a community presence in certain regions, sometimes organizing charity rides or fundraisers. Critics view this as a PR tactic, aimed at masking criminal ventures under a veneer of goodwill. Members, on the other hand, defend these events as genuine attempts to give back to local communities they see as their own. Regardless of motivation, this blend of violence, community outreach, and covert operations makes the Outlaws a complex and deeply entrenched threat in the landscape of outlaw biker culture. Founded in 1966 in San Leon, Texas, by a Vietnam War veteran named Donald Chambers, the Bandidos Motorcycle Club quickly established a name for itself. The founders believed in living outside the law, adopting the motto, "We are the people our parents warned us about," as a deliberate statement of rebellion. This rebellious streak, combined with the aggression of its members, propelled the Bandidos into the national spotlight as they clashed with local Texas authorities. By the 1970s, the Bandidos began branching out, starting chapters in other states and forging alliances with smaller biker clubs. As the group spread, they attracted not just free-spirited riders, but also seasoned criminals looking for networks to traffic weapons or narcotics. Within a few decades, Bandidos chapters existed in places as far-flung as Europe, Australia, and parts of South America. Their infiltration into these regions often led to violent showdowns with entrenched local clubs. Each time, the Bandidos proved adept at forging power-sharing deals if necessary, or launching bloody turf wars if alliances failed. A hallmark of the Bandidos is their distinctive red and gold colour scheme, emblazoned on vests that members wear with pride. These colours serve as a signal of unwavering solidarity, but also a warning to outsiders that they're dealing with a group known for swift and sometimes lethal retribution. Much like other 1% clubs, the Bandidos have a rigid hierarchy. New recruits must undergo an arduous prospect period, taking orders from full patch members and proving loyalty at every turn. Those who pass muster gain full membership, granting them the right to wear the revered patch and the obligation to protect it. Law enforcement agencies across continents have documented Bandidos' involvement in large-scale smuggling rings. Cocaine, methamphetamine, and illegal firearms are key commodities, managed through labyrinthine distribution channels that can elude even skilled investigators. The club's leadership reportedly coordinates drug runs with cartels, though official accusations are rarely confirmed by members. Nonetheless, repeated raids reveal caches of weapons and illicit substances linked back to Bandidos chapters. One of the most infamous incidents in recent history is the 2015 Waco shootout, which erupted in broad daylight at a local restaurant hosting a biker meetup. Dozens of Bandidos members and affiliates squared off against the Cossacks, another Texas-based club. Gunfire erupted, resulting in multiple fatalities and a wave of arrests. Subsequent court battles were long, with many charges eventually dropped, fueling debate over whether police overreached or if the Bandidos had orchestrated a planned assault. Outside the US, Bandidos chapters in Australia have garnered significant law enforcement scrutiny for alleged involvement in methamphetamine production and distribution. Reports indicate that some chapters became so powerful they effectively controlled local drug markets, enforcing territorial boundaries through intimidation and violence. In Europe, Bandidos members repeatedly clashed with the Hells Angels, sometimes leading to large-scale raids in which authorities discovered grenades, machine guns and major drug hauls. To the public, the Bandidos often promote an image of brotherhood and community service, claiming they do charitable rides and events for local causes. Yet critics assert that these endeavours are superficial attempts to sway public opinion and mask the club's criminal operations. The tension between philanthropic gestures and ruthless tactics underscores the complex identity of the Bandidos, part local community, part global crime network. While crackdowns have led to high-profile arrests and internal fractures, the Bandidos endure, fueled by a deep sense of loyalty among members who view themselves as misunderstood outlaws rather than gangsters. This combination of loyalty, global spread, and readiness for violence has cemented the Bandidos' status as one of the world's most formidable biker gangs. If any motorcycle club can claim near universal recognition, it's the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Founded in Fontana, California in 1948, the Hells Angels grew out of a post-war culture that mixed restlessness with camaraderie. Early members were veterans seeking a brotherhood free from societal constraints. Over time, that brotherhood took on an outlaw identity, symbolized by their winged skull logo, the Death Head, which has become synonymous with rebellion. The Hells Angels spread rapidly across America by the 1960s, feeding off the era's counterculture movements while simultaneously embracing criminal undertakings. Chapters formed in major US cities, each operating autonomously but adhering to a strict code enforced by the club's overarching leadership. The synergy between chapters allowed them to coordinate on matters like territory, supply chains for drugs, and distribution of illicit goods. By the 1970s, the Hells Angels went international, planting flags in Canada, Europe and Australia. Law enforcement officials worldwide have long viewed the Hells Angels as more than a mere biker club. Investigations and undercover operations repeatedly allege the group is involved in everything from drug production, notably meth, and trafficking to money laundering and contract violence. In Canada, entire investigations have focused on dismantling Hells Angels chapters that allegedly maintain ties to organized crime syndicates. These efforts sometimes lead to dramatic raids, seizing caches of weapons, narcotics, and vast sums of cash. The Hells Angels' rivalry with other biker clubs, such as the Outlaws and the Bandidos, is part of outlaw biker folklore. Clashes have erupted at motorbike rallies, highways, and even public events. One especially notorious incident is the so-called Quebec Biker War in the 1990s, where Hells Angels chapters fought violently against the rock machine, resulting in bombs, shootings, and a widespread climate of fear that left civilians on edge. The violence escalated to such a degree that the Canadian government and police agencies launched sweeping operations to quell the chaos. Despite these criminal allegations, the Hells Angels cultivate a mystique of brotherhood and loyalty, often hosting charitable events like toy drives or fundraisers for local communities. Critics accuse them of using charity as a public relations shield, allowing them to appear benevolent while concealing drug-running operations and racketeering behind the scenes. Club members, however, maintain that any illegal activities are the actions of individuals rather than the entire club. This plausible deniability often makes prosecuting the gang as an organization challenging for law enforcement. Culturally, the Hells Angels have been immortalized in countless books, TV shows and films. Their patch or colours is one of the most recognisable symbols in modern pop culture, often equated with rebellious freedom. This contradictory image, both glamorous and menacing, enables them to draw in recruits who romanticise an outlaw lifestyle. Those same recruits then undergo a grueling initiation process, reinforcing the gang's code of silence and uncompromising loyalty. Today, Hell's Angels chapters span nearly every inhabited continent, creating a global network that law enforcement describes as fluid, adaptable, and highly secretive. Undercover agents have expressed surprise at how quickly a local chapter can muster resources, whether it's for a violent showdown or a large-scale drug shipment. Repeated prosecutions sometimes dismantle specific chapters, but the club's international structure remains resilient. Each chapter is tightly knit, ready to protect or avenge its brothers regardless of national borders. This global cooperation, combined with a near-mythical public image, cements the Hells Angels' legacy as the most notorious biker gang in the world. From the Outlaws' bloody rivalries in the American Midwest, to the Bandidos' expansion that spans multiple continents, to the Hells Angels' iconic status and alleged global stranglehold on illicit trades, these gangs have shaped the modern understanding of outlaw biker culture. Their evolution from small rebellious clubs to large-scale criminal enterprises exemplifies how loyalty, hierarchy and intimidation can fuse into a potent underworld machine. Each gang claims a distinct identity and set of traditions, yet they share common themes: strict organizational structures, a readiness to commit or sanction violence, and the cultivation of local communities that simultaneously fear and sometimes respect them. On the surface, they host charity rides and adopt the facade of a close-knit community. But beneath that veneer exist labyrinthine networks capable of orchestrating international drug trafficking, arms dealing and money laundering. Investigations from agencies like the FBI, DEA, Interpol and various local police forces underscore the complexity and danger these biker syndicates present. The question of why these clubs persist, despite decades of crackdowns, raids and criminal prosecutions, lies partly in their social fabric. They offer members a potent blend of brotherhood, rebellion and outlaw prestige, a combination that can be fiercely addictive to those who feel marginalized or disillusioned with mainstream society. Moreover, the clubs pass down stories of defiance and survival against police pressure, painting themselves as persecuted underdogs fighting for their vision of freedom. This mythology resonates with a subset of recruits who seek an identity that is larger than life. Law enforcement experts emphasize that while some of these gangs appear subdued at times, they often resurface with renewed vigor, forging alliances with other criminal outfits or diversifying their operations. In many regions, motorcycle gangs have discovered symbiotic relationships with mafias, cartels, or even certain paramilitary groups, swapping protection or smuggling routes for a portion of the profits. The cross-pollination of criminal methods only strengthens their global reach. For the communities living under the shadow of these gangs, the impact can be profound. Ordinary citizens might witness brazen shootouts or find their neighborhoods labeled as territory for one gang or another. Businesses may face extortion under the threat of violence if they fail to comply. Those who speak out against the clubs may face retaliation. In some countries, specialized anti-biker task forces have made inroads, yet the cycle of arrests, convictions and regrouping continues. Ultimately, the Outlaws, the Bandidos and the Hells Angels stand as more than mere clubs with leather jackets. They form an entrenched ecosystem of organized crime. Their ability to adapt, recruit and survive across decades, despite major law enforcement stings, demonstrates how deeply they've rooted themselves into local and international black markets. Media portrayals sometimes gloss over the enormity of their criminal undertakings, focusing instead on the rebellious imagery. But behind the thunder of motorcycles there is a grim reality of violence, exploitation and cunning alliances. For those seeking to understand the breadth of global organized crime, these gangs offer a stark lesson in how subcultures can metamorphose into transnational syndicates. They might begin in a single bar or rundown garage, but with the right mix of loyalty, opportunity and lawlessness, they evolve into entities powerful enough to challenge entire law enforcement agencies. And while countless arrests have made headlines, the clubs adapt and persist, reminding us that dismantling them is as much a social and cultural endeavor as it is a legal one. In the end, these three motorcycle gangs endure because they sell an identity, a sense of defiance, and a promise of unbreakable brotherhood that resonates with individuals disillusioned by conventional society. It is a potent formula that law enforcement battles on multiple fronts: infiltration, intelligence gathering, public outreach, and judicial oversight. The stories of the Outlaws, Bandidos, and Hells Angels highlight the very real consequences that arise when these close-knit communities turn their backs on the law in pursuit of power, profit, and the primal allure of riding free, no matter the cost. Thank you for watching this comprehensive exploration into the most dangerous motorcycle gangs around the world. We hope this closer look clarifies not just their dramatic histories and sensational conflicts, but also the quiet, persistent underpinnings that keep them alive across generations. Stay safe, remain aware of what lurks behind the romanticized biker image, and we'll see you next time.